Stella Mercado, and I'm President and CEO of Mercom. Mercom is a federal contractor supporting the government with IT solutions. We started it in 2000. It's been quite the journey, but it's been a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, and have a great team supporting us. Typically, it takes about 2 to 3 years to establish yourself as a government contractor. You have to establish past performance. So there's steps, the typical steps of starting any business. You get your tax ID and some of the other requirements, but you also have to establish and or propose contracts. And the key to doing any business with the federal government is to have what we call contract vehicles. So if you have contract vehicles, then you can sell to the government. Without those vehicles, it does make it difficult. The easiest federal contract vehicle that's out there that any company can go after is GSA Schedule. There's multiple GSA schedules, one specifically for IT companies. So you step one is to set up your company with a GSA schedule. And it's not really competitive. You're just telling the government what you're going to provide, and you give them a discount, and then you move on to selling whatever it is that you're selling to the government. After that, then you can establish some past performance through the GSA schedule or through other small business contracting opportunities. And then you start going and developing larger contract vehicles, and you propose on bigger and bigger contract vehicles. Usually they have ceiling bases, and that's how you build your contract base. So I was really fortunate. I listened a lot to people that had been successful, other small businesses. We also worked with large businesses. The government actually has a program called the Mentor Protege Program. And so large businesses like Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, Booz Allen will mentor smaller companies. And we happened to be a protege for General Dynamics a few years ago. And they helped us build processes that typically small businesses don't have the funding for or the talent to be able to set those up. When you complete those processes, then you become more efficient in doing proposals for the government. Many small businesses don't have the facilities to be able to scale, and we recognize a lot of those things early on because I had worked for larger business. So we had built a lot of the requirements up front and were able to perform for those customers prior to entering into the Mentor Protege agreement. We all live in cloud, right? From any applications, Facebook, whatever, we're all in cloud. Instagram, millennials grow up on cloud, it's cloud native. The government is not cloud native. Most of their systems were built years ago before cloud was even out there. So there's weapon systems. Anything you can think of are being run off of archaic technology. Code has to be rewritten. There's a ton of opportunity within cloud. And then how do you secure cloud, and how does the government make sure that a closed system can't be put on the cloud? There's some risk mitigation that you're constantly doing as either a policymaker and or as a user or a program manager and an implementer. We've got 4 core values, but I think the most important thing that comes from those core values is really the people. A couple years ago, I call it the suck, and went through some really challenging times, losing some Navy contracts. And it was really hard for me because we had to lay off a lot of people, and had a core group of people that really stepped up and, quite frankly, are running the day-to-day operations today. You can put names and core values around any words that you want, but at the end of the day, it's really about the people that you have working for you and making sure that your commitment to them and how they're feeling are important. So trust being one of those core values. You have to trust in the people that are doing the work and that they're going to get the work done. The team has to trust each other. And we have a weekly call, Monday mornings, and everybody kind of talks about what's going on with whatever they're working on. And we have to trust that each person is going to do the work that they say they're going to do. When you're interviewing people, you want to, yes, leverage those core values when you're talking to them, but make sure that they provide you with examples of what they've done in their past experience to, show those core values. So from a funding perspective, we basically bootstrapped. You lose equity when you reach outside of that. And then you want to make sure that you're also not losing control. Mercom had sources of revenue working with the government, so we didn't need to scale at any huge at all. I mean, we just focused on doing the work that we did, and the government, they pay small businesses faster than they pay the larger businesses. There's programs for that as well. I define innovation as the ability to manage constant change, coming up with a different solution. What worked last year will not work this year. So you're constantly adapting to what the client's requirements are, whether it's technology or, in our case, a different contract vehicle. The flavor of the month for a GSA schedule might be great for last year, but the next year the Navy might be using a Navy contract. And if you don't anticipate those innovations and those requirements, then you're not going to be successful. So it's just constant change. When you're selling technology, inherently you're used to change. Many times the minute that technology is sold, it goes out of date. So you're constantly working to innovate. One of the solutions that we provided, this is a couple years ago, that's kind of cool, was on Air Force One. A lot of contractors, they take a lot of different products that the manufacturers make, and then you integrate them for the customers that the requirements that the government has. So one of those was an IT solution set that was specifically for Air Force One, and we built that here and were able to deploy it, and that was kind of a cool customer, to have that one of your solutions was on Air Force One. Some specific stuff, I'll go back to State Department. So I remember I was with the customer and we were sort of way before the requirement came out, kind of coming up with ideas to go from a closed system to an open system. So we were drawing on napkins how to design the system so that we could then implement it, and that solution went out to embassies overseas. Those are some examples. Things with the Navy, some of our solutions, secure solutions, have gone on to Navy ships. When a soldier's out in the field and they have their gear on, their technology gear on, and they're going, into an environment that is not secure, and they could get shot if the product isn't working. Workforce development is a huge problem that, quite frankly, was discussed 30 years ago. Recognizing that a typical four-year degree graduate isn't necessarily what you need to get the job done anymore. Apprenticeship programs, there's just a ton of programs. And also, why can't we hire someone who's 14 or 12 that is an expert at flying drones? I know there's child labor laws, but my point is that the technology has changed so much, and younger people are utilizing that technology, and they're becoming the experts at those technologies, and it's natural to them. Not having these barriers that are there so that someone can fit in a box to be hired, that needs to change. So it comes down to trust, and when you're working with any customer, especially the government, and they know that they can count on you to deliver, that's the most important dealing with the government. So the minute that you find out that there's going to be a delay in whatever you're providing, let the customer know. Even if that impacts the contract, then you get a modification to extend on the period of performance. Building that trust between yourself and or company and the customer, government, whoever it is the most important part. I'm Stella Mercado, and those were my notes on innovation.